Women Up Radio, designed to facilitate women's empowerment, improve your career, develop your talents, incorporate your passions, achieve fulfillment and success.
Hello, this is Women Up Radio, supporting Empower Women. And today we're talking about values and World Values Day. I'm joined in the studio by my guest, Clare Baker, a leadership coach and trainer who's a fervent supporter of the UK Values Alliance in helping people, organisations and communities live their values. She's also a founding member and coach for Know You More, which is a learning and development platform that delivers coaching at scale across an organisation. As a social enterprise, it reinvests its profits into other communities, societies and charitable causes that focus on the development of youth. So, welcome to the programme, Clare.
Thank you.
So, Clare, tell me about your career. How did you start and what drew you to becoming a coach, as well as your involvement in UK Values Alliance and Know You More? Because it sounds really very interesting.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a meandering journey, I guess. I started my career really in the charitable sector. It's always been really important to me in my work to make a difference. And I worked with philanthropists, leaders in business who wanted to make a difference in the world. And the thing that I really liked about that was I could make much more of a difference at scale with people who could invest 6 or 7 figures in a cause than I could ever hope to do on my own. But what I found as I went along is that I was getting more and more satisfaction of helping other people in my team to develop and to fulfill their potential. And that led me to become a mentor with the Institute of Fundraising. And I had an amazing trainer there, and he actually trained me using a coaching model. Yeah. And when I had kind of reached the end of how I could help my mentee, he suggested I go to a free weekend to learn some coaching techniques so I could continue to support her. And I sort of never looked back. I'd had coaching myself, and it was a really powerful experience. And that sort of led me quite naturally to want to help people in the same way and actually change sort of the world one person at a time, almost, I suppose. And then how did I get involved with the UK Values Alliance? Well, I think I worked for one organisation in the charitable sector, and we weren't a culture and values fit. And I really noticed a huge impact on that in terms of my performance, which was I went from being high performing at my previous organisation to underperforming. And when I moved on to the next organisation, I went back to being high performing again. And it really told me how important to performance being aligned in your values and your work are, and also to your happiness and your well-being and your confidence. So when I heard about the UK Values Alliance, and I use values in my coaching, it seemed a natural sort of thing to do around the sort of one-to-one work that I do. And Know You More was actually just through my coaching network. And I really like it because I fundamentally believe that coaching can benefit anyone. Usually, because of the cost, organisations only invest in coaching for their senior leadership. But there are plenty of people across the organisation who could benefit. And I really like the fact that the virtual coaching platform offers the opportunity for organisations to help a much broader range of people with it. And I've mentored my own cousin, and I really like the fact that we then get to help young people kind of fulfil their potential and go on and do some good in the world.
That sounds fantastic. I find it really interesting, particularly that you saw the difference in your performance depending on the values and the way the values were aligned between your values and the company's values. That's something that not many people think about. They think of themselves, but they don't really understand how much it can affect their performance. So I think that's a really very interesting point. So talking more about values, what are they? How would you define them?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. A lot of people often struggle to talk about this succinctly, but really in simplest terms, values are what's important to us, and they're really a key part of what makes us who we are. So examples might be accountability, love, trust, security, success, status, making a difference, family, or freedom. Those are all examples of values, and they mean a different thing to different people. So what family means to me and family means to you might mean different things. They're quite subjective. They also, I think, a really important thing about values is they're like a compass. So we use our values a lot in our decision making, in the actions and choices that we make as we live our lives.
So why do values matter? Why do they matter to us?
Well, so I think if we forget our compass, then I think sometimes we take a wrong turn. And I think that's the same for our businesses, our communities and our societies as it is for us on our own. And I really believe that if leaders succeed in living positive values, it isn't just their business that benefits, but society as a whole. And I think I touched on it in my answer to the last question, is I think that today we're seeing what happens when values fail. So on a human level, globally, we're sort of consuming and living in a way that has too little regard for biodiversity or sustainability, and we're leaving a really shocking legacy to our children and even risk having no future at all. There are views, the differences in our values at the moment are dividing our society.
So can you give us an example? What are the top 3 values that you live by, and how can we discover our own?
So maybe if I start with the sort of second part of your question first, I think when I work with leaders, a kind of core part of what I do is helping them identify their values and how they can use them to lead well. And if you don't already have, some people haven't thought about it before, and if you don't already have a sense of what your values are, then you can grow your awareness of them, and exploring actions, achievements or experiences or qualities that you feel good about or uncomfortable with are a good place to start. So you might ask yourself, what are the 3 most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life? Or who are my role models and what qualities do I admire in them? And you might imagine a time at work where everything was exactly as you wanted it to be and you were in complete flow. What was going on? What were you feeling or seeing or noticing around you? And again, it can also help. I sometimes ask people, what makes you angry? Because it's often quite easy to work out what we value by seeing what happens when it's missing. And once people have an idea of what their values are, we often like to think that, oh yeah, that's my most important value. But actually, it's quite useful to challenge yourself. So some people say success is the most important thing to them, but somewhere on their list is love. And I say to them, if you had to have only one of these things for the rest of your life, so you had to have love or success for the rest of your life, it helps people think about what really, really matters to them. So that's the kind of questions you can ask to find out what matters to you. In terms of my own values, I suppose as a coach, because I do values-led coaching, I spend quite a lot of time thinking about these things. And for me, they're true, be true. Authenticity is a word some people use. I don't particularly like it, but be true, integrity and courage. And I put those before things like love and trust, because I don't think you can have things like love and trust without those values. So it's about showing up as your true self, and that's what you need to be loved. I think standing up for what you believe in, even when it's hard, and that's the foundation for trust. And being true to myself and standing up for what I believe in, well, sometimes that takes a lot of courage.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. And particularly about how you need some of them before you can get the others. No, that's good. And so how do you then put them into action? Once you've found your top 3 values, how can you then take them and do something with them?
Yeah, so I think that's very important because values are quite abstract terms, but they do translate into concrete, tangible things in the world. So the way we behave, the way we act, and the choices we make. So maybe and it is personal for each person, but it's some good examples maybe from the way I live my own values. So, for example, when I look at being true to myself, it's very important to me that I define success on my own terms and work towards that. So I don't wear suits. Might seem small to a lot of people, but I just don't wear them.
Yeah.
And walking on the beach after work is like my KPI, as it were. And in all the materials I produce for my business, it's always my own photos. I never use a stock shot. And when I had my brand photography done by an amazing woman, she went to Canberra Sands with me. My brand colours are sand and ocean. Yeah. And the amazing thing, when people all my friends saw the photos, and they said, "There you are, exactly as we see you." So those are ways I put being true to myself into action.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I will admit that with integrity, standing up for what I believe in is hard sometimes, because I find conflict really quite difficult. Mm-hmm. But what I have found is I work with an associate partner, and we're able to have really quite robust conversations about project and ways of working. And it means that we're able to have a relationship that we both feel is fair and honest, and have a high degree of trust. And that in turn sort of translates into good things for the people that we do work for. Yeah. In courage, I suppose a simple one is that I used to be scared of standing on a chair. Friends at heights and I have never been friends really.
Right.
But I've climbed a glacier, 5,500 metre mountain, and learned to scramble. So that's one sort of very obvious way. But also, I'm quite financially risk averse, and I left a PAYE job to set up my own business, so I could be true to myself and have the life that I wanted. Yeah. That took a lot of courage, and I think it takes courage often on a daily basis still, I think.
Yes, yeah.
You are listening to Anna Letitia Cook at Women Up Radio.
So is that some of the impact that you think living these values have on your work and life? Things like being risk averse but still having the courage to do something different and to set up your own business? Or are there other examples that you can give us?
Yeah, definitely. With the courage, it's definitely let me hit my KPI of walking on the beach after work. I now live down on the south coast, whereas before I lived up near London. And so being brave did let me get that kind of, big KPI in my life. I think also, though, is that because I'm true to myself, I feel confident. I know I'm loved because I show my true self to the people close to me. And so I feel safe and accepted for who I am. And that's a real foundation for strength, I would say, in all the things that I do in my life.
Yeah.
And I think also, it's good for other people in life. All my friends, my colleagues, my family often give me feedback that they know I will be there and I will get the stuff done that I say I will.
Yes.
And that means that I have really good relationships where they know that I'm going to get stuff done. So I think it benefits other people as well as me.
I think it's brilliant. Really, that's such a good thing to be aware of, how it can change not just what you do and what you say, but also the fact that you are accepted for you. So it gives you so much extra confidence, and you know that you really are being taken for you and not for some other persona. So what values do you feel are important for women in leadership?
Yeah, so actually that goes very nicely to what you just shared, your own response there, Anna, is that women often struggle with imposter syndrome or lack of confidence. And I wouldn't want to impose my values on anyone else, but that one about being true to yourself, you're absolutely right. There are, of course, times when we need to take stock of ourselves, look at areas where we need to develop. But if you're true to yourself, it really helps you build relationships at work, and also to trust yourself more. You're kind of more on solid ground, and if you're trying to be the person you think you ought to be rather than being true to yourself. And I think it also, being true to yourself means that you find it easier to make choices and decisions that create meaning in your life and work.
Yeah.
I think as well, when I was sort of thinking through this, I was thinking about the role of interdependence. And really, I think that's the key to success beyond what we can achieve for ourselves. And whilst it's not true of every woman, I'm not really very fond of generalising. Collective working and collaboration is something that women are naturally more inclined to, I would say, more often than men. But you can still hear terrible stories, Anna, of women undermining other women and judging each other. So I would say that the value of sort of support for each other, whether that's support or connection or championing or abundance, I can't think of a value word for it, but that kind of being there for each other and supporting each other in our success, I think is really, really important. And I suppose I also think that compassion actually is a big value of mine, but I think it is very important. I think the amount of time I hear people being unkind to themselves, they're inner critic, self-doubt, punishing ourselves for if we make a mistake, or we feel I'm not a good enough mother, I haven't done this at work. We tend to do ourselves down a lot, and actually science has proven that the harder we are on ourselves, the more negative the impact on our performance. So instead of helping us, it actually hinders us in moving forward. And if anybody's interested in finding out more, there's a very good researcher called Dr. Kristin Neff, and she talks about self-compassion a lot, and I am a big advocate of that.
Oh, right. That sounds interesting. Okay. And so World Values Day, I know this is something that the UK Values Alliance is very involved in. Tell us about World Values Day. I know it's on the 18th of October. Why does it take place, and what are its objectives?
So the purpose of World Values Day, and indeed of the UK Values Alliance, is to create a society that's led by positive values. And the day itself aims to do that in two ways. So one, we want to raise the awareness of values and the role that they play in our lives, but also to help people take action to actually put their values into practice. And we kind of do that on three levels, really, on an individual basis, but also for organisations and communities to get involved. And social media is a big part of that, and the hashtag is World Values Day. And it was used, 15,000 times in 99 countries last year.
Really?
And over 300 groups, whether that was organisations or schools or communities across 32 countries, took part last year in last year's Values Challenge. And I think that shows that it is something that's starting to resonate with more and more people wherever you are in the world.
I think that sounds amazing. Until you spoke to me about it, I really didn't know anything about it or what happened or how it worked. I think that's such a good initiative. So what's the focus of this year's World Values Day?
So the first World Values Day was about individuals. Last year was about organisations. So this year is about values in the community. Yeah. And a community is a very broad word. So it might be your team at work. It might be maybe you belong to, a women in business network. It might be a choir, a sports club. You might have an allotment. You might be part of charity or volunteering groups, schools, your friends. If you belong to a mum's group, you might be part of drama and theatre. Community takes many different forms, both in work and outside of work. And there are communities can choose their own way to express their values. The UK Values Alliance has pulled together 3 activities if you want to really roll your sleeves up and get involved. And one is called community dialogue. And with that, you pick an issue or a topic that's important to your community. So it might be about intergenerational connection, or there might be a particular value that you want to explore, and you think about how to put it in action. Or if there's an issue in your community, you might think about how that value can help you move forward. Then there's something called street values. So that's kind of more of an immersive activity where you get to pick a value as a community, but then you actually literally go out onto the street and observe behaviour in your community and see where the value is being lived or not. And there's also a values challenge. So we did it specifically with teams within organisations last year, but now this is being opened up to all community groups. And you pick it, it's an hour, and you pick a value, you explore what it means to you, and then you decide on an action that your community will take to put that value into practice. And all of that information will be available in a supporter pack and on the World Values Day website. However, that's quite a lot of stuff to do. Examples of other things communities are doing are acts of kindness. There's a great initiative someone's doing called Eating with Elephants, where we talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes. And
so they have dinner to talk about difficult issues, and they would like to bring a value into that. There's a flash mob planned in Holland, and that's all around diversity in the community. And in Ontario, in Canada, I was speaking to a lady the other day who's doing a Values Fuel Your Day workshop. So there's lots of different things going on.
So if people want to get involved, I mean, from listening to this and they love the idea, what should they do next?
So there's a whole range of things that you can do, from simple to quite deep and involved. So the easiest thing to do is to choose a value of your own, take an action that demonstrates that value and share it on social media. So there's a template that you can download from the World Values Day website that just says, I value, and you talk about what your value is. So and then you talk about the action you're going to take, and that's something I'm actually going to do. So I'm going to do the People's Walk for Wildlife on the 22nd of September in London. And so I'm going to use that to talk about my value of sustainability and just pop it up. So it's very, very quick and easy to do. The three things that I just talked about, as I said, if you go to the website, you can get a supporter pack. That'll be available very soon. And there's lots of different ways that you can get involved and find out more there. And then also, I'm aware that this goes out to a lot of people, but if you are London based, there's going to be a seminar in London on the evening of World Values Day itself, which is the 18th of October between 5 and 8:30 p.m. And that's going to be quite interesting because it's going to focus on how business and communities can collaborate to put values into action for a better society. And more details on that are going to be on the World Values Day website soon. So you can do something yourself quickly and easily. You can look at the resources on the website, and hopefully you'll be able to come along to the seminar in London.
That sounds great. That sounds really very, very interesting. And I think it's something that would be so good for everybody, whether it's work, whether it's the local community. And it sounds like your website and the organisation of how to do it makes it much more simple for all of us to have ideas and actually put it into action. Well, thank you very much.